the azo dyes. I mean, just the effect that they could have on your skin barrier. Now, this is not even just washing off or killing. This is like chemical reactions with your skin that could damage your skin barrier, which is such a hard problem to resolve when you actually break the skin barrier, because that's when pathogens can get into your skin and cause havoc. And that's like a cycle that's really, really hard to break.
I am super excited to have Shelly today here with me. Not with me. Where are you, Shelly?
I am in North Carolina, Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Very cool. I am really excited to be speaking with you because you have a pretty solid scientific background. You basically came from the science side towards becoming a maker. You make your own products. Before I'm butchering anything, maybe you can just introduce yourself a little bit. What's your academic background and what you're doing right now?
I'm Shelly Winokur. I am a chemical engineer and a mom of 4 and the founder of Kiss Kiss Goodnight, and we make microbiome-friendly skincare. And my background is, as I mentioned, a chemical engineer, so I have a bachelor's and a master's in chemical engineering from Columbia and Princeton. And when I was in school and university, that was the big human genome project time, and we worked in the lab helping decode the gene. So years later, when I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, cosmetic, and food industry, again, making products. When I had my kids, I started making skincare for them and for their sensitive skin. And it was this revelation and this coming together of stuff I learned back in my human genome days to making products to being a mom, sort of helped me come up with the ideas I have for Kiss Kiss Goodnight.
So you have a pretty solid academic background.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit that the biome to me I remember that from school as in the jungle or tundra or something in nature, but I've never heard of the biome as being something on the human body. And you specifically talk about the biome on skin. It's something that we've coming to understand more and more. And, there's pretty much scientific consensus on what it does, but there's also scientific consensus that we just started to understand how it actually works.
I mean, the Human Genome Project itself really reintroduced us to the idea of the biome and the microbiome, because when we started coding, we realized there were so many more genes for the microbes on us and in us than even the human genes. So the skin microbiome, like the gut microbiome, are all these bacteria and yeast, other microbes just covering our skin, and they are there to, they protect us and they help regulate our skin functions. And we are learning more about, similar to the gut, where within the past 10 years, we've learned so much more about it. And not only we're learning things that are contradictory to what we believed in the past regarding skin health and gut health. Your skin microbiome balances the oils on your skin. It helps exfoliate your skin. It communicates with your immune system. If you really take care of your skin microbiome, that will take care of your skin. And a lot of people like to say good microbes and bad microbes, but that really isn't the case. We want to strive for a balanced system because, again, we're learning so much. And if we say one bacteria is bad and we try to eliminate it, well, we're going to mess that system up, similar to an ecosystem where you take away something that you think is a predator and it causes one species to thrive and another it just messes up the balance. So right now our goal with the microbiome and the skin microbiome is really balance.
What is the biome? Is there a simple way of understanding what a biome is?
Yeah. So we have these, the microbes on our skin, and some microbes are there and they're there to help defend you. And they thrive when you eat like healthy foods, when you're resting, when you're outside and you're in the environment. And then you have other microbes that are craving the sugar and are killing the good microbes. And that's what you don't want on your body.
My understanding is a little bit the biome is it's basically like a forest. And a forest has like an amazing ability to recover and, deal with whatever fires or external threats and so on. And it will always go back to its balance. And it's very intricate and very complicated. There's a lot of different symbiotic relationship between different species. And humanity realized that when we interfere there, we're trying to take one thing out or replace it with something else. We usually just mess up the balance, and the forest can become sick.
And the more we understand the skin biome, the more we realize that it is so overly complicated. But still, it's a beautiful complexity because it works. It really does what it's supposed to. And yeah, we are learning that if you take out certain bacteria, for example, ones that cause acne that we thought cause acne, well, it actually doesn't, and protects you from acne, for example. The idea of taking out one thing, just like in a complex like rainforest biome or something, you need all these things. And also because they train each other to some extent. So you need all those different aspects of the biome to survive and to thrive.
There's this example, right, from Yellowstone.
Yep. There's
The,
a Yellowstone example. We wanted to get rid of all the gray wolves, sorry, in Yellowstone, and we did so. But then we had antelopes, and then they were eating the certain vegetation, and then we couldn't, so we had an increase of the antelopes, and then the decrease of the vegetation because they kept on eating it. So it completely changed the ecosystem by our need to just get rid of the gray wolves.
and I think it was even that they realized that the rivers, or that the
Mm-hmm.
one river itself, that were just like starting to die and starting to change.
Mm-hmm.
When the wolves came back, suddenly the river was recovering, and they didn't know how do the wolves relate to the river. And they found out, well, because of the antelopes that were just like grazing on the sides of the river, the river's microbes started to change, and it basically killed the river. And it all was connected basically to us humans taking out the wolves. I think the wolves in that example is a lot of things that we find on the skin, and somebody decided, oh, this is bad, we got to get rid of it. You need some antibacterial agents in your skincare or whatever. It's basically kind of immature in over engineering that was done in cosmetics. We've put a lot of things in skincare because we're trying to get a specific effect. But you and your research and your brand is basically saying all of these things that interfere with the biome, we want to step away from that. Is that
Yeah, the best thing we can definitely do is if you have skincare that has little effect on your microbiome, that's a great bar to be at. We have so many different types of skincare. If you have soap, for example, which is basic, they're changing the pH of your skin, and some microbes thrive in that acidic environment. So the changes in pH affect the skin microbiome, and we actually weaken it and imbalance it. And also the rituals we do, like how often we wash, how long we wash, because we need the skin microbes to recover.
I always say, like, it's almost tragic. A lot of people put these things on their skin every day because they want to care for their skin, but actually they're creating a dependency, and they're actually kind of disturbing the natural ability of the skin to heal
Mm-hmm.
itself, and then come away with thinking, oh, I have this very sensitive skin, or I have the skin issue, and that's why I need a lot of creams and cosmetics. And while probably from the capitalist consumerist perspective, that's a win, but it's actually not a win for like personal health. It's something that I think also, skin is particularly something that affects people also psychologically a lot.
Like a great example of that is even overwashing, where maybe you have someone who thinks they have oily skin and they're using cleansers to really strip themselves of that oil. The more they remove that oil, their microbes are reacting by producing and producing more oil. And then it's just a cycle. It happens quite often that we're trying to do good by our skin by using the products and following the rituals that we think are right. But when you learn about the microbiome, then you realize that it's actually not helping. Another good example, one that I lived through, was with my son when he had eczema. And when he would itch, my gut was like, okay, let's wash it off. Let's wash off the bacteria on your skin that's causing you to itch and causing eczema. And it actually was the opposite. He was just lacking those microbes on his skin, and that was causing the itching, the irritation, and therefore the eczema. So the solution there was actually to minimize the baths and let his skin recover, and even the cleansing using gentler cleansers on his skin.
We just go in with a sort of what we think is a surgical targeted attack on like one bacteria that we have identified to cause something negative. and then something else would happen. The genome and the biome, what is the relationship?
So the Human Genome Project was decoding the genes of the human, right, of the human body. And I think it's like 99% similar, 1% different within our population, give or take different areas in the globe. And while they were doing that, there was just so much data about the microbes just in your on your skin and your gut, and the amount of genes in those microbes outnumbered the genes of the human. And of course, at that time, it was just cluttering the data. And like, but then we learned also the real uniqueness in us is not really our genome, right? Our genomes are actually very similar. It's our microbiome. And then that triggered all this research about, okay, let's learn more about the microbiome to understand what causes this person to be healthy and this person to be sick. Things like obesity and acne, and why does one person have it versus another? And we're getting more answers when we study the microbiome than when we studied the genome.
Is this connected with like epigenetics? Like the DNA might be the same, but because of the microbes present, it has a different way of expressing itself.
Yep. So yeah, the microbes are communicating, through chemistry, of course, through the release of peptides with the different organs in your body and the different systems, the digestive system, the immune system. So now the microbiome, your microbiome, especially in your gut, is really, they're relating it to Alzheimer's disease and the communication between the neurons in your brain and the microbes in your gut. They're making connections between that, which hasn't been as clear in terms of genetics, but is becoming more clear when they study the microbiome. How much are you born with, and
Makes
how much is it through your life experiences and your environment? And, when we ask that question, the microbiome is shedding more light and giving us more answers. Now they're saying it starts developing even in the womb, and as soon as you're born, whether you're born in a hospital, what methods you're born, who are the first people you interact? Are you born in the city, in an urban area? What are your first foods and things like that? These life experiences are affecting your health, short term and long term. I wouldn't say more so than genetics, but increasingly we're becoming aware of how they are doing so.
We have increased the length of life quite a lot, but in many cases, the question of quality, in many cases we have a lot of diseases, autoimmune diseases, that we didn't have in the past. Of course, a lot of people would argue that we had them but we didn't know. But I think the data is pretty clear on things like eczema or a lot of other autoimmune disorders. Chronic pain, I think, is one of the things that's expressing itself very clearly in the last years. And I think people like you with this science background, or I would say particularly you've done the step to take the science and actually develop a product with this, to say like, this is probably something that we don't want to interfere with because we don't understand it. But we know from your work experience, we're using all these chemicals that we know interfere radically with our biome on the skin, and we just use it even without understanding what the effects are. The skin biome is working, is doing its magic. We shouldn't interfere with it. And I can clean my skin with a product without using something that would like fundamentally change the biome.
Yeah, I mean, our definition of clean has also changed considerably over the past century, too. With running water and the amount of skincare products and cleansers that we have available, we are definitely at the point where we're over cleaning. And just within the past, say, 100 to 50 years, our environment has changed, our lifestyle has changed, and it is affecting our microbes differently. So whether it's air pollution, the food we eat, and we'll talk about textiles too, they're all shaping and changing our microbiome. Also, there are studies that showing it's changing even more rapidly now within the past few decades than it has in the past too.
We create for a lot of people a dependency on cosmetic products or pharmaceutical products. And that dependency is kind of man-made, and in a really unfortunate way, marketing works in a way to tell you that you need this because you have eczema, because you have sensitive skin, because you have, you're not healthy, basically. People think they have to keep buying these products. And I think that's where it gets really interesting, because obviously you have a company, I have a company, and, we want people to buy our stuff. But I think really what you are kind of telling is we've overdone it. Like basically tell people to buy less and use less.
When it comes to baby skincare, especially, which we specialize in, it's definitely a minimalist approach. You know, minimal cleansing and moisturization, especially because within the first 3 years of life, this is when the skin is developing, the microbiome is developing. Less is more. Let it do what it's intended to do. But on the flip side, especially when it comes to skincare, you know, you'd be a fool to think that people are not, they enjoy skincare. It is part of their self love, self care ritual. And that's part of the reason for the consumption, which is understandable. But even with that, there's definitely a responsible way to do it where you can still enjoy even variety and aromas and textures. If you're thinking about still protecting and nourishing the skin microbiome, you will automatically use less, and just be mindful of what you're using and still enjoy it because you're actually understanding what you're doing. Right now in our population, over 60% of adults have sensitive skin, and 10 to 20% of kids will develop eczema.
I also realized with my own eczema that doing things less helps me way more than using some topical steroids, which help a lot in a short term, but they create the problem will eventually just
Mm-hmm.
get bigger. And when you the way you talk about this, and you basically, it just makes a lot of sense to me. It just makes a lot of sense that we just interfere way too much. And I guess that's what a lot of like customers that you have also feel. We just had a kid 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks yesterday, and my Facebook and Instagram, I'm getting so much products for like, whatever creams and ointments and all of that. Your kid always has diapers on. The diapers are wet most of the time. Skin is irritated just
Mm-hmm.
from being, wet all the time. And, we've been saying, hey, we don't make half an hour every day where she just can be naked so the skin can like properly dry.
Yep.
And but I could also see this can easily be exploited by somebody giving you an advertisement and telling you as a good parent, this is the cream you should buy for these red spots on your children's legs. Or and I think I really see like this is kind of how these like dependencies start, really out of like good intention to do something for your child or maybe for yourself, can easily then just be that you just interfere with something that has a natural way of regulating itself.
Yeah, like we used to do this thing with our kids, just like naked time, where they would just be, you would put them, and if they did pee on it, that's fine. You just switch it out, but just give them a moment to be free, and you mix that in with some tummy time in there, and it was just like their
Yeah.
time to be with, not hindered by anything else. They could just sort of be who they are, and that's important. I think we need an ad about some baby naked time as a skincare ritual.
Our baby has an amazing ability to make the big business is happening
Oh,
for
right
sure.
then, right during, yeah, that's gonna happen.
Right,
That,
perfect. Yeah.
that's gonna happen, and maybe it needs to, maybe they do love that like free time just to
Just let it
just
all
to let
out.
it all out. Hey, you never know. Yeah.
So, as a scientist, as a mother, as an American, what is one or an example that like really gets your blood boiling when it comes to like an interference that we do or companies allow to happen?
There is a lot of misinformation out there. And the one I mentioned was to, if you have a rash or the solution there is to wash and over moisturize. It's this washing and moisturize, this constant stripping the skin and then putting these moisturizers on, where the solution really is minimizing the wash time length. So that one really gets to me because I feel like if I knew that one earlier while I was raising, my son had his early skin irritations, it would have changed our direction. So I think that is a big one. Another one, which is more formulation wise, is if there's a product out there and it touts like a new green ingredient or a probiotic, but then it has like really harsh preservatives or skincare ingredients in it, that's doing the exact opposite. Like from a formulator's mind, I see it.
I've been in touch with a wonderful woman called Brianna who made a documentary called Preventable. Yeah, it's really interesting. So it's about TSW, topical steroid withdrawal
Okay.
syndrome. And it's basically when people have been, start with mild eczema and then doing more and more steroids. And then when the steroids just don't help anymore. And in cases like her and many, many other people who have this TSW, it goes to like really the skin really falling off, hair completely falling off. And she made this self-funded documentary about like that this is like it's a known thing and it's preventable, and it just comes from this almost consumer approach we have to taking pharmaceuticals just more and more and more, and then this thing often with physicians basically trapped in the system who only have 10 minutes to see you and just give you a product without having more time to look at it from a more holistic, there's the word, holistic perspective. We did some research on this, like TSW as a hashtag, and it's just growing really fast because a lot of people find that only steroids help them. And it's a little bit like the opioid crisis. They just run into this until it's too late, and eventually it will not help anymore. It will, you basically have a whole complete skin barrier breakdown.
The sad thing is, and they are prescribing the steroids even to young babies, and there is a place in it for it, and that's a different conversation. But the continued use of it, the long-term use of it, definitely has, its effects, and the doctors are not sharing that as much when they are prescribing it. They're even saying it's not real, it's a total lie, and things like that. And that's not helping. And once you say the word eczema, sensitive skin, the microbiome should enter that conversation.
It goes back to like this balance, right? The doctor should say your skin is out of balance. How do we get back into balance? What can we give you? What can we take away that you're currently using
Mm-hmm.
so that you get back into the balance? But we have this approach a little bit like a car mechanic, like which part do I have to replace? Instead of, more like a, I don't know, like a, but like a botanical view of like saying there's something in imbalance. Let's just look what we've put into the garden that has caused the imbalance. Talking with Brianna, she told me of a lot of people in her community who are going through divorce, and because you mean literally your skin is falling off, and there's nothing helping you. So this is a really, really traumatic experience. And of course, our approach is to say it is preventable, because a lot of it is because we don't really look at it holistically, what's happening with your skin.
We've had people in our community who the barrier is completely broken. They need to stop itching, or it's just not going to, they're just breaking it. And you can use it for a short period just to get it intact. And then, definitely stop, so then you can use other things to help strengthen that barrier. But because there is almost no information in the doctor's office and people are finding it in different places, there is also this huge fear. And there's these little ones that are like, now they don't even have this as a solution. It's just confusing. And it's just so sad, because I've seen how much it can affect those first few years for baby and parent. So it's as you mentioned, yeah, just having these ailments can be life altering. And just realizing that and just being more mindful of when you're sharing on the topic.
Shelly, you are so like you're a scientist of one of the most famous universities that there is. Why don't you just do like talks? Why don't you just stand on like do TED talks and just inspire people? I mean, you've gone through the very difficult route of like creating your product, and you're obviously staying away from any big, so far I think, big company contracts that would kind of compromise your freedom as a chemist to use the things that you want to do. So why do you make your life so difficult?
When I saw the baby skincare market as a whole, I thought there was a hole in it. Like, we've been doing things the same way for so long. And I thought, one, we can do two things. We can use the advanced information we have about the microbiome to change the way we make products, and look back to how we used to clean our skin generations ago. Use that information to create products that do help the skin microbiome. And I am a maker. I spent my first part of career making products. I do love practical science. And so I feel, being an engineer and then being a mom, I feel I use the experience as a chemical engineer, but the care of a mother when I am making my products. So I have that unique perspective when formulating. I love learning about new ingredients, old ingredients, and then still realizing that you have to make bath time fun for kids. I do love educating about the skin microbiome. I get really passionate about it.
I mean, clearly, a lot of people are waking up to this. I mean,
Oh, yes, I definitely see it.
yeah, and I can tell you that same in textiles
Mm-hmm.
too. We started making these textiles, I think, the first 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and I often felt that like it was to most people they've never thought about chemicals in textiles and that they would somehow affect the skin. And now we don't need to really advertise. With a lot of people are coming to our homepage or coming to us because they specifically want to educate themselves on the topic of chemicals in textiles and how they affect health, and that's eventually how they
Yeah,
come to.
especially if they've been thinking about what they put on your skin in terms of skincare. It just makes sense that the textiles are going to have a similar influence on the skin, and you should be as mindful, especially if you have what's an underdeveloped microbiome as a child or imbalanced microbiome. I think people that have these like allergic diseases like eczema or even hay fever and asthma and IBS and all these different things that have this dysbiosis, this imbalance of the microbiome, they're the ones who are really perceptive to this information and are wanting to learn because it affects them so much. It's like my little one knows how to say the word microbiome, and we talk about that a lot. It's important. This information is definitely something that can even benefit the very, very little ones because you give them that why. When my son, he was like, why is my skin itching? Why is this happening to me? And now he is, this happened to him when he was 2. He was itchy, irritated, and now he's 12, and he is such a like health conscious boy, and that he understands, he pays attention to what he eats and sleeps and exercise and all these different things. And I do think that's because of his experience of how we've had to learn and educate them and educate each other about it, that he's grown up to be so mindful of these things. So all the parents who are struggling this with their little ones and they're learning and they're teaching their kids, one day your little one is going to grow up to be more mindful of this way to help protect their health.
Children like to eat colorful things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's probably a craving for fruits and vitamins and healthy food. This can be exploited with, like, I don't know, Fruit Loops or things that just look colorful, but there isn't anything nutritious in there. The same goes with textiles too. We want to wear colorful things,
Right.
and a lot of like traditional colors. They are very antibacterial. They have good effects. Like these things, there's a reason why we crave them that we may not necessarily medicinally fully understand, but you can also kind of be led astray.
Part of the reason why we have our blue jellies, they love color, they love texture, they love smell. We still want that in their bath time. We still want these fun aspects because they're going to gravitate it to it, right? They're going to gravitate it. But we can make them a little bit healthier. Like your blues, for we got the sheets, the indigo dye for the blue, so beautiful. I think it's such a beautiful color. It looks so natural. There is so much beauty already in nature, and there's so much to be attracted to that is still natural, that's still good for you.
What chemicals are used in textile processing that worry you as a health conscious chemist?
Yeah, and I'm learning more about the textile industry and just the dyes, for example, and just like the parallels, honestly, between the textile industry and the skincare industry, and the disbelief that some of these things are still used in the textile industry and considered organic, right? Organic sheets are just maybe the organic cotton, but everything else that is put on, like the dyes and the chlorine bleach, so the azo dyes. I mean, just the effect that they could have on your skin barrier. Now, this is not even just washing off or killing. This is like chemical reactions with your skin that could damage your skin barrier, which is such a hard problem to resolve when you actually break the skin barrier, because that's when pathogens can get into your skin and cause havoc. And that's like a cycle that's really, really hard to break. Formaldehyde is still used in right,
Very
we in skincare, like that's, you can't say that word anymore, and god forbid is hidden in the fragrance or something, but that's something that you don't hear in skincare as much as the preservatives. But the fact that it could still be on our textiles is crazy. And anything even like chlorine bleach, which can change the pH of the textile itself to make it more basic, and your skin is acidic, those like pH changes that can occur on your skin too, based on the textiles. And I don't want to be one to say that everything that touches your skin is going to penetrate and hurt you. Microbiomes are resilient if they're healthy. The problem is little babies are developing them. Elderly people have an imbalance in them due to maybe different medical conditions, and they're the ones who are susceptible to these issues when they interact with the chemicals in textiles like these, whether it be reactions with the skin, whether it be changing the pH of the skin and disturbing the barrier itself, and just like all these allergic reactions that could occur. And those actually build, right? It's like you can be using the same sheets for years, and all of a sudden it starts irritating you because your barrier is worn out. And I think the consumer still needs so much more education when it comes to textiles, and realizing even if they do have the organic cotton emblem, that it's just not enough. And because it's when it comes to children's clothes too, the bright colors allure you, and that's the one that has the dyes, the azo dyes and all that.
But particularly unfortunate that the brighter and the more synthetic the textiles are, the more they are marketed towards children who have least
Yeah,
capability of
that
dealing
is
with.
crazy. And then, and I think a really great example of how textiles like and skincare interact is when we wore masks over our face, and how it interacted with the microbiome. Here, we all started to wear masks, and talking to others, and then you had all the microbes that were in your mouth now all over your face, and that caused such a change, and just the humidity and all that. Well, that's just your face. Now think about, and we saw the difference there because there was obviously a moment when you wore a mask and a moment that you didn't. But now think of it just overall in your body, all the ones that you aren't picking up, all the new types of athletic clothing that are keeping moisture on you, or having some harboring bacteria and keeping areas more humid, all those that are just influencing your biome. Like your biome is so susceptible to humidity changes. Once you start really thinking about it, then you start understanding, okay, why am I smelly today? What am I wearing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of a lot of clothes make you smell, and
Mhm.
that's actually a good way of like seeing that it's not your body, it's actually the clothes that you're wearing. And a lot of, I think, things when it comes to skin conditions too, that's not your body, it's the things that are that are the lotions or the textiles that make your body
Yeah, they're
react.
changing they're changing the chemistry of your skin. They're if you're holding on to your sweat a little longer, or some of the bacteria, you can be changing the chemistry of your local microbiome, producing odor and irritation.
I can tell you one thing it very often happens in textile industry is uh, many people that work in the textile industry and that are responsible for these like chemical formulations. They truly believe that the effect isn't so bad. We talked about bleaches.
Yes. Mhm.
Pretty much, I don't know the exact number, but I would say 99.9% of all organic textile clothes will be bleached. A lot of people also work in the textile industry are not aware of. They basically say we're just using the legal limits. But when you actually look at how these legal limits have been established, they're usually done with like very limited animal trials that you say, okay, how much formaldehyde can I put on the rat until it starts being looking sick? And then we say, okay, then we do like 10 times less than that, and it should be safe. But we're not looking at long time
Right.
liver damage or combination of chemicals and so on. So we know that these chemicals are dangerous, and we assume that there are safety standards that are sufficient, but we can clearly see an indication more and more people are waking up that these safety standards and a lot of consumer products that's beyond textiles, that's cosmetics,
Yeah.
children toys and so on, are often not sufficient. And maybe they're sufficient for 80% of the people, but that is not that should not be enough.
Right. There should be more. When we know better, do better. And now, and even babies, they have flame retardant pajamas and things like that, which is
Yeah,
a whole nother
yeah.
category. But and fleece pajamas and all these things, and they're causing a lot of irritations, and it's hard to say because um, it is a bunch of different things kind of put together, and then you come up with this big problem. Like for if they have an eczema reaction, for example, it could be something that it could be from the foods they get, the skincare and the textile. You guys have alone taught me so much about the textiles and how much to pay attention to what we're putting on our skins in terms of textiles, and even the research that I've done. I can't believe how far some of these things are, because I'm definitely one of them. Like I see like organic, 100% organic, and it's a check mark in my mind, and I didn't think about all these other things until I met you guys and I started reading more about it.
I think these topics are often like rabbit holes or like a cabinet of horror that you open and you go like, this cannot be real. Like the example of the children pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you go like, do we allow chemicals that interact with children, and we know that they do some, it's like similar to estrogen, so we see it kind of interacting with the organism of our children. Like, no, this can't be true, and you're trying to read further and then you discover something else, and so it's even crazier. I do think that this is probably also why a lot of people want to stay away from this, because they're busy with their lives and doing other things. And they go like, if I worry about all of the things that I should be worried about, like I don't even go out of bed anymore. And I think that's probably there's people are overwhelmed with the amount of information that is there. So in these like interviews, what I often want to close with are like practical tips,
Yep.
because I'm a very positive, optimistic person. I always so like just target low hanging fruits. You won't be able like life is deadly in the end anyway, so don't worry too much about it. But definitely you want to improve the quality of your life as much as you can, and there are definitely things that are not difficult that you can look out for and target. And since I have a person of science with me, I'd like you to give me a couple of like low hanging fruits
Low hanging fruits.
when it comes to either cosmetics or textiles,
Mm-hmm.
that I should be mindful of.
And they're more like sort of like this mindset shift too. I think it's the idea is, one, as you said, don't over worry about it. One small change at a time will make big changes. And so a lot of parents, they make these small changes when they do have a child, because then they have this whole new being to take care of, no new things to buy, and really paying attention to what they put on the registry or what they purchase for a little child one. So definitely small changes at a time. And it could be, when one product is over and you're looking for that new skincare product, just be, read the labels, or pay a little bit more attention to when you do make that change. What worked for me when I was learning about this is that mindset shift of thinking, is it good for your skin microbiome? I remember growing up and your doctors would say, oh, eat the rainbow, eat all the color. And I just didn't understand why. And now it's like, okay, because the microbiome thrives on it. Okay, get your sleep. Why? Well, because your microbiome is restored when you you sleep. So I feel like I keep bringing it back to when I have to make these decisions about my child, whatever it is, about my family. I bring it back to, and my family probably gets tired of me talking about the microbiome, but it's like, if I want to protect me or my health, I do think about how it affects my microbiome. And once I start thinking about that, some of the decisions on what to purchase and how to behave become easier for me. For example, the overwashing. You love your ritual at night, great. But in the morning, can you just splash some water on your face and that be it? And then the last one is, me listening to companies like Kiss Kiss Goodnight, talk about and educate about the skin microbiome. I think customers now, they are defensive and they're worried about being talked to so much about these issues, but there are very many mission-based companies like yourself too, and so much to learn, and just being open to more information.
So would you say, generally
Mm-hmm.
speaking, how often should I shampoo my hair?
How often should you shampoo your hair? That's going to change for a lot, but I think most people could get away with 2 times a week. 2 times a week. And you will, initially, it may not feel great, like if you're still overproducing oils. like for the first month that can happen as your as your scalp finds its new balance basically. And after say a month time, like 2 times a week should be enough.
Basically, using shampoo every day is too much.
It continues that cycle of you're stripping the scalp and then it's overproducing and you're stripping it and it's overproducing, and that doesn't end until it starts to flake and because it's so dry and things like
It's
that.
so crazy. I think for at least 10 or maybe 20 years of my life, I shampooed my hair every day. And and now for like maybe 8 years, I'm like dealing with like a dandruff that is just like sometimes driving me. It's now better than it has been a long time, but mostly because I use way, way, way less shampoo. And whenever I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a hotel, I don't use any other shampoo. I'm going to the hairdresser and then I always have to disappoint them that they cannot shampoo my hair. 'Cause
Oh. Yeah. That is a hard thing about skincare. It does take a while, whether you're changing your ritual of how often you clean to changing your product. It does take a while for your skin to find its new balance. And sometimes that deters people from making a change. And even with your sort of that emotional state of cleansing less or using less, it does take you yourself time to believe that and
and
to be comfortable with that.
there's some people who say you should use a sunscreen daily.
Mm-hmm.
An issue? Can that be an issue?
Sunscreen is definitely it's not microbiome friendly, like the zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, whatever they're using, or the chemical, physical barriers or chemical barriers. It's going to interact with your skin. There is a more that like the more microbiome friendly way to use it would be to first put some sort of protective like lotion or balm on your skin and then put the sunscreen on top. And then, of course, with little babies and little ones, it's more about avoidance of the sun than putting sunscreen on your skin, because definitely they are developing their system and you don't, that's one of the reasons babies don't wear sunscreen, babies don't wear
Yeah.
bug spray and things like that. They're developing, and that's definitely something that's going to change the chemistry of their skin more so than even an adult. And as you get older, you should have more resilience in your microbiome to be able to wear sunscreen and bug spray and things like that. It's just that some people do have that compromised skin microbiome and they really can't tolerate it.
And one another thing that you've mentioned twice, so I don't want to skip this. You were talking about sleep. How important is sleep for skin health?
Yeah, I mean, sleep is just, it's that part. It's funny, when I was describing it to my son, we talked about, when you charge a device, you need it to recharge all the way and you don't want to use it on partial. Well, sleep is that. You don't want your microbiome is working hard to, every part of you is working hard to recharge, including your gut and skin microbiome, while you sleep. And the less of that you're doing, the less sleep you're doing, the less you're recharging all those different things. But also, we're learning more that there's the skin, gut, brain axis where they're all connected and they all talk to each other. The gut microbiome, the skin microbiome, and the brain itself. And when you're not sleeping well, and the stresses of that will affect how your skin and your gut microbiome and your skin microbiome reacts to. So there's this recharge, but there's also this relationship with all three and your mental state, and you're just you being less stressed and more peaceful will help you overall look better and feel better.
So we could break it down to like three simple tips for
Mm-hmm.
people with sensitive skin. Would be don't overwash.
Don't overwash.
Beware of products you use daily, and sleep enough.
Sleep.
Hey, Shelly, I wish you all the best for your
Thank you.
entrepreneurial journey. I look
Yay.
forward to seeing what you're doing. I hope there'll be more opportunities for us to collaborate. You've really opened my view up towards better choices in cosmetics, and looking out for. I have now this choice that, or now this challenge to look for products for somebody else, for my own kid. And I'm very I you've introduced somebody to me that I'm going to meet next week here in.
I'm so excited for that and to see what you guys do together. I'm definitely going to keep my eye out for that because I think there is, yeah, I am amazed by how much I've learned about the textile industry and all the exciting things to come. And for me, all the just how I'm in wrapped up in the world of the skincare and how so many other people are working on with these different industries, sort of with this same all-encompassing mission of just providing better products and also educating on them.
Yeah,
I think is very just yes,
yeah,
the mission-based businesses. I really appreciate that.
yeah, yeah.
Being
Educating
surrounded by
the shopper is the way less lucrative part of the business.
them. Yep.
Thing that I enjoy a lot because meeting somebody like you from the world of cosmetics, who has taught me a lot about the biome, and also I think I have a newfound respect for the ability for the magic that's our skin, right? What
Yes, that's already there. And just preserving that, even simply preserving the magic of our skin. I like how you put that. Yes.
yeah,
Um,
and, we are basically made of magic, right?
mhm.
It's a newfound sort of respect for our body and the ability what our body can do, and not like interfering, you know, having a god complex and interfering, trying to fix things
Oh
and
yeah.
fix the problems
Yeah.
that we've created
Mhm.
ourselves. So
Mhm.
I really love that. It's really, really interesting. And I'm really thankful for you that you've gone on this journey, that you're actually not just doing TED Talks, but you've developed products, because that also shows other companies that this is possible. You can create products that way. It's not something that is not achievable or would be way too expensive or nobody cares about. I think you're proving that all of this is not correct. People care about.
Yes.
Your products are beautiful. They are affordable, and you're making them happen. So I'm really happy for this. I'm really happy for the opportunity to have met you today.
Well, thank you so much.